Love between humans is just not easy. And without great examples or education about emotions, communication, sex, and what keeps love alive, it's too easy to be disheartened, settle, or give up on what you want most. I believe you can have the love and intimacy you want. And having coached thousands of people on their love lives for over 20 years, I know what love can be for you. So I'm bringing you people who share vulnerably about their dating and relationship struggles and how they learn to create the most connected, fulfilling, and exciting love and sex of their lives, so you can have it too. If you haven't yet taken the quiz to see what keeps you from having the best love and sex of your life, go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. You'll get a personalized report of your strengths and challenges in the 5 crucial areas that lead to your most fulfilling and exciting love and sex life. Go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz to find out. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Practicing Love. Have the best love and sex of your life after 40. I'm excited to be here today to talk about a different way than I tend to approach things of creating connection and intimacy in a relationship. And I'm excited to have Nick Brancato here to talk with us. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Nick is an author, a relationship strategist, a personal development coach, and his new book, Prioritize Us, Unlocking Lasting Love with One Simple Proven Test. As I said, again, it's going to go into more of how couples can be aligned in their values, in their missions, in their purpose. And it's something that I tend to work a lot, Nick, with the intimacy piece, not just sex, but, emotional intimacy. And I know many amazing coaches who work with values and purpose as you do. And I think it's a really powerful balance, the two, to have
Absolutely.
the capacity to communicate and to interact in a way that creates more connection and trust and all of that. And there are breakdowns often that happen if we think we're having the same conversation, but we're actually having different conversations, or we are not aligned in our values. And so we're coming from these different places, and it seems like one person's wrong and the other person's right. And yet I'm curious what you're going to say, right, about all of this. So I like to start with hearing a little bit about what's your current relationship format or anything that feels important for us to know about your relationship history.
Sure. So I'm married to my wonderful wife, and we've been together for 10 years, over 10 years now. I'm married for a few, and we have a wonderful relationship. We work on it every day. There is something important to know, and that is our biggest challenge, which is mental health. My wife has schizophrenia.
Uh-huh.
And so she's doing well. It's a happy story. She's thriving now. But a long time, it was very hard. And that was one of the things that led me to writing the book, was that it gave us a shared interaction point where we could navigate our biggest challenge together. When one person lives a nonlinear reality, traditional relationship advice kind of breaks down pretty fast.
Wow.
So we weren't just learning each other's love languages. We were sort of decoding entire frameworks of perception.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I feel in awe, really, because it's hard enough when we are in the same frame of reality to love and receive love and all of that. And so I just have a lot of respect for you for navigating this and finding your way through. And not only that, but then coming out the other side with a book and being in service.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. There were so many seasons where I didn't know how to support my wife without over-functioning, where times when silence actually meant safety.
Yeah.
And sometimes sadness, or moments where what she needed most was not my solutions, was very hard. And sometimes is still hard because I have to, it's still a constant practice of reminding myself that.
There you go. I mean, that's why I called this Practicing Love, right? Because
yes, it's a beautiful name. I love it.
Yeah, it's not like we stumble on the solution or something that works for us and then click, we got it. And now I know how to be present at all times and all moments.
Right.
Reality is not like that.
No, it's not. For so long, I thought that it's love meant always having the right answer. But then I learned, or am always still learning, that real love means not needing to fix what you're learning, but rather understand.
Yes. Yes. I think that's a beautiful way to say it. So I'm imagining, there are some people who are in your situation, but other people who don't have the mental health piece in such an extreme way. I think we all have some of the mental health pieces, and we go through these life stages and hormone changes and transitions and family members getting sick or needing care or all these things. So I just want to say, for you listening, I think this is applicable, and I'm curious what you would say about this, Nick, whether or not you have such an intense mental health challenge.
It's absolutely applicable. I think that when you can find a framework that works in very extreme situations, then you're going to find that it works in everyday situations as well.
Yeah.
And so beautiful. When something's sort of forged in fire, it's that much stronger.
Right. Because we think about, you have the ultimate, or had, or again, continuing to have the ultimate challenge in understanding. And can I be with this person who has a very different experience than I do, or different needs than I do, and still keep my heart open and love and stay connected?
Yes, it's always challenging, but it's so rewarding and very gratifying to find solutions that keep us connected.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. My grandmother was schizophrenic, and I remember it was challenging. She was old by the time I was a teenager and going downhill, and it was terrifying. But I've since thought about it as, I have a very spiritual nature and can go into different states and domains that I think the rest of my family thinks I'm crazy, but for me, they're very real and beautiful. And I wonder how much overlap there is between her state and mine. That's a major side note. So
thank you for sharing that about your grandmother. I appreciate knowing that. I think what you touched on is so important, in that what you perceive that other people may not, that's a part of your reality. Yeah. Everything's sort of a spectrum, right? It's a continuum. Yes. So everyone's mental health is in different points on a continuum in each area, whether that's attention or perception or something sensorial. And so you probably can relate to your grandmother more than the other people in your family. Yeah. And maybe what you're able to perceive and have a framework for decoding now with your spirituality and with your educational background, that wasn't something that was available or afforded to your grandmother. So she probably got labeled quickly.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. And it has me think about how we relate to each other, and that a mature kind of love, which is what I go for, and I think most of the listeners go for, we're not just throwing each other out when it gets inconvenient or hard, or when somebody goes through challenge, right? In an immature kind of love, it's like, oh, you're not meeting my needs anymore. This isn't fun. This isn't light. Like, let's, we can move on. And I think that you're giving me me and us such a beautiful example of, okay, we can face these really hard challenges together.
I think what you touched on, immature love, it's so important, because so many people think of their life partner, whoever they choose or they're going to choose, as like a one-time decision. Like, I'm going to choose this person and they're going to stay the way they are indefinitely, regardless of if I change or not, because that's what I'm making the decision. I'm making the decision to be with this person at this point, rather than making a decision to partner with someone and have more of a long-term vision of what you're agreeing to is to adjust, to adapt, to grow together, to withstand the weather of life, and move as a unit, regardless of what comes at you, and especially with regards to personal growth and development, because everybody's going to change. They might not change their values. Those might remain pillars, but their priorities are going to change for sure. And I think that's an important distinction too, when you're picking your partner, or when you're trying to understand your existing partner, is what are their core values? And then what are their priorities? Because their priorities answer the question, like, what's important now?
Yep. Yep. I love that. And I know we can get more into the values. Before we do that, I'm curious, because this framework that you created in your book came from some of these struggles. Can you say a little bit more about what the struggle was like? Again, for those listening who don't have a partner with a bigger mental health challenge, it may feel a little bit extreme, but I think that we can, learn from your experience, and then we'll get into how you're practicing with that.
Thank you. I'll be happy to share. So my book, Prioritize Us, was sort of born from the most turbulent, challenging time of my life when my now wife was experiencing all these crazy, serious mental health issues. And for a very long time, years, in fact, we just didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
Because she was experiencing paranoia, extreme paranoia, so much to the point where she would rarely eat food because she thought it would be tainted. So if anyone but her prepared it, even a delivery, even food out, she lost like a third of her body weight. It was really terrifying. And it was all just unclear. And she was having hallucinations too, but we didn't know that for a long time. And she was hearing voices. And so she was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. And throughout all this sort of turmoil, our relationship actually improved during the crisis.
Wow. Okay, that is almost unheard of.
Right? Yeah. And the reason was because we had a lot of miscommunications in the beginning of our relationship because we speak different languages. We sort of come at things from opposite angles, even if we agree. So we had natural miscommunications, but all our small arguments and all our communication struggles, not all of them, but many of them, sort of fell to the wayside very rapidly. When we realized that health and safety were both of our top priorities.
Amazing.
And so before that, career was really important. I was extremely career focused, growth focused. Relationships sort of took a back seat. And once I valued health and safety as the most critical piece of our life together, because I was so concerned, because it was so critical, and literally her life was at stake, everything else just became so secondary. And we had like an aha moment where we realized that if having the same priorities makes everything easier and makes communication simpler, because you're not focused on the small details, you're focused on the big picture. Then what if we apply this idea to the rest of our relationship?
Wow.
And so I began identifying and ranking sort of 10 core life priorities that subsume most of the things of day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And I realized that couples often argue about surface level things.
Totally.
The real conflict, right?
In my book, I have a section where it's like, it's not about, I can't remember exactly, it's not about the laundry, the dishes, or even the finances, right? It's like, it's so much deeper than that.
Yes, it's so much deeper. You have to zoom out to get some perspective. And the real conflict so often comes from unspoken or misaligned priorities.
Yes.
And so I identified these 10 core life priorities and then ranked them 1 through 10, 10 being the most important, 1 being the most important, 10 being the least important.
And you identified these in general for humans or between the two of you?
Great question. So in general for humans, focused on a relationship. Okay. So they can be changed. The list can be changed. You can make your own 10, but it's a great starting point. And you could substitute one priority for another one if it's more applicable to you. For example, sex is a priority in a relationship. If you wanted to use this with your kids, you might make it play as a priority, or school, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we rank them 1 through 10, and then we compare the lists to each other. We rank them separately, and that's important. You want to do it as an individual and not be swayed by what your partner puts.
Yeah.
And you compare the results. And your goal here is not to have the same priorities. Your goal here is to identify what priorities are similar and where the differences are. And so if I rank something as number 2 and you rank something as number 5, the difference is a 3.
Yeah.
So that's a minor difference. The difference could be as high as a 9, or it could be a 0 if we have the same priority.
Yeah.
So what you do is you compare these results and you get a total difference score by adding each difference together. So it's 0 through 50. 0 means perfect alignment, which never really happens. It's like 1 in a trillion. And 50 means exact opposite alignments. It could happen, but
really far
still,
apart.
Yeah, really far apart. And so I tested this method in my coaching practice and with everybody that I could find, like as many couples as I could find.
Mm-hmm.
And what we discovered was that there was these hidden misalignments everywhere in priorities. Often couples who had been together for years didn't talk much about certain priorities that they ranked very highly. For example, things like spirituality, things like sex. Sometimes they talk about it in the beginning of the relationship, but not necessarily deeply, not necessarily
it is
on
amazing.
an ongoing basis.
It's amazing how many people come to me, and when, you know, they are having some of these, whether it's priorities or needs that are different, and I say, okay, so what conversations have you had about this, right? What conversations have you had about your sex life? And sometimes it's like, we haven't. 10 years, 20 years. I mean, it's mind blowing. And it's so sad to me because then people are living in these silos with the person in your home who's supposed to be the closest person to you. And that is so lonely.
It's lonely and it's sad and it's avoidable. That's the thing. And it's actually low hanging fruit for a relationship improvement because it just takes sometimes 1 or 2 or 3 conversations where you're just shedding light on an area that was dark or gray before, just bringing it. And when you compare your priorities, you don't want to have the same ones necessarily. What you want to do is adopt a learning stance. You want to get curious.
Yes.
And you want to ask why. Yeah. Why is this your top priority? Why is this in your top 3?
I love that. I love that. That's so aligned with my work too, because, you know, I wrote again in my book about a way where sometimes one person has a desire or a need and the other person's like, that's not me. I don't do that. Right. And starts to then list all of the reasons why this isn't okay, which comes, we have compassion for that, right? It comes from fear. It comes from wounding. It comes from all these things, but the curiosity gets lost. And the why do you want this? What is your motivation? Let me get curious with you, right? The fear can just take over and shut all of that down. And then we don't get to know each other.
Yes. I love what you said because sex is a form of communication as well. And a very underrated one, underrepresented. You know, when people think about communication, they just think about the words that come out of their mouth for the most part, or maybe the emails that they send or a text, but they don't think about the physical communication. They don't think about the behavioral communication. They don't think about the intimate
communication. Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like an actions speak louder than words. Like our behaviors are actually speaking for us.
Exactly. You could say something, but if your face reads different, then everything is off. It's going to be incongruent and your message isn't going to be received as you intend it.
Yes. Yes. Powerful. So that's even a different piece than the values or the priorities. That's a piece I think I tend to work with a lot, and maybe you do as well, that, you know, how are we communicating? Sometimes I think about conversations as content and connection. And so the content, right, is all the informational exchange, but that connection based in some of those invisible pieces is incredibly important.
I love that. That's great. I'm going to add that to my framework. I think of it as content and context, but it's also connection.
Yeah. 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 That's beautiful.
Connection.
I love the context too. Is so important. Like if we're not in the same context, then we're having a very different conversation, or it's not based in here's how I love you. It like can be heard as here's what I think is wrong with you if the context isn't actually set up.
It's so true. And context also has to do with having a shared reality.
Yes.
So something I practice all the time is creating shared context regardless of what's being perceived.
Yes.
So certain things are just human, like drinking things,
Yeah.
like consuming a hot beverage. Regardless of the reality that you're in, a hot beverage is still going to be soothing. It's still going to take 5 or 10 minutes to drink. So my wife and I have a hot beverage ritual every
Oh,
morning, and it just takes 5 or 10 minutes. And our rule is no devices and no talking about other people.
beautiful.
So we could talk about ourselves and each other and any challenges we're having, of course. And no matter what's going on as far as our realities,
Yeah.
this is something that's grounding for us because it's just something that's human and shared. And we get this connection point every day. And it's just a small touch point, and it makes a massive difference because it compounds over time.
Yeah.
It's a habit that creates like an upward spiral for
Yeah.
us.
I love it. We have so much of this shared language of shared reality, I think is one of my favorite framings, right? Because we don't have to necessarily agree on something, but if we don't understand how the other person's holding it, then there's just there's no coming together.
Yes. One of the ways that I think is a great way to vet a relationship or a
Yeah.
potential long-term relationship is how much of reality do you want to share with your partner? Are you like all in? Do you want to have an integrated life, a true shared reality
Mm.
as much as possible?
Yeah.
Or are you trying to have separate worlds where we share this reality together when we're just home, but we have a different reality at work and we never mix the two?
Mm.
And that sort of compartmentalization and different worlds might work for some people.
Right.
But in my experience, in the long run, when you're not integrated in other ways, or to some extent, as much as possible, have a shared reality,
Yeah.
then conflict is going to occur because you lose the context. When you have shared
Yes.
reality, you're sharing context and you're sharing connection.
Yes. And I can see some people, if you have that same context of we're going to interact this way and only about these parts, and if that works for people, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think you and I both lean toward that the more we know each other, the more curious we are about each other, the more we actually share, we can build that trust and foundation of someone has my back and I'm loved and all of those things.
Exactly. Couldn't
Yeah.
be more on the same page.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about a way of practicing? So, say two people, and maybe you can give a personal example. Say two people find, okay, we have this discrepancy, let's say, in our values. There's a gap. What's the practice? What do you do there?
Terrific question. So when there's a gap, what we practice is I don't try to regulate my wife's reality. I try to regulate my response.
Ooh, that's okay. Say that again.
I don't regulate my wife's reality. I regulate my response.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Thank
Either
you.
way, any gender, right? That's just
yes,
a
any gender.
statement.
I don't regulate my partner's reality.
Yeah.
I regulate my response.
Yeah.
So what we're practicing now is mutual coherence, not emotional matching, but emotional harmonizing. Emotional matching is what humans tend to do by default. They mirror and try to get their emotions in sync. They think it might be empathetic. They think it might be sympathetic. Sometimes it's both those things. Sometimes it's neither. So what we've learned to do is design rituals around safety, not performance. Because our performance is going to vary greatly day to day and season to season. And the reason our performance is going to vary so greatly is because everyone has mental health challenges. When you emotionally harmonize, that often means being in a different emotional state than your partner. So when she's having a hard time, it's much better if I'm not.
Yes.
When I'm having a hard time, it's much better if she's not.
Yeah.
So rather than us both have a hard time about different problems or even the same problem at the same time, we sort of regulate our responses to the best of our abilities.
Beautiful. Can we go back to regulating your response?
Yes.
Can you give an example of that? I want to make this very concrete because I love this.
Sure. So rather than regulate my wife's reality, I regulate my response. So if my wife does something that I'm uncomfortable with, or that I find surprising, or that I would have had an expectation of being done. So it could be something as simple as leaving some food out and not putting in the fridge, not putting in the dishwasher. Yes. So somebody might get upset at this naturally, like, oh, there's food out, it's spoiling, it's messy. Why didn't you do the dishes? Why didn't you put it away? We're wasting it. Any of these narratives can come to mind for someone. Rather than jump to those things, I try to regulate my response, and I have to say, well, we might not even be in the same reality right now. Mm-hmm. Like, she might not be doing the same things for the same reasons. Maybe that food needed to cool to her, or maybe she was distracted by something much more important to her mental health,
right?
Or to
You're
her
getting
life,
curious, like, oh, what
career, exactly.
motivations could she have had that aren't the judgments that I have?
Right. And if she was distracted by something with her mental health, then don't I want her to focus on that instead of this little problem? If she was focused on her career, don't I want her to prioritize that over this problem? Can't I deal with this right now? Mm-hmm. I'm doing nothing anyway because I'm looking at it thinking about this. So obviously I could have probably just dealt with this. I'm not saying you should always clean up after each other or anything like that. What I'm saying is get curious and don't think that you know someone else's motives.
Yes.
Because often you don't even know your own.
Yes.
If you don't know what you would do in that situation, it's really hard to know what someone else would do.
I often have a principle I use that some people have questioned, but it tends to work for me, which is assume the best and then get curious versus assuming the worst. And I can see where it doesn't fit if you're not already in a relationship with someone and there's some trust built and there's some safety built, right? Then maybe I can't assume the best about someone else. But with your partner or your child or someone who's close to you, I think we can assume that I don't think this person is doing this to get me back. I think this person is having some kind of internal intention or motivation that is good. And can I get curious? Like, you came home late, instead of doing the, like, why are you doing this? Or you're doing this to get back at me from last week. It's more like, hey, I noticed that when you're showing up for me and our family, you usually are on time. So can you help me understand what happened here? That curiosity versus the blame and the attack and the dysregulation that can happen.
Yes. And I think that that's very interesting what you said about believing that's the best in the person.
Yeah.
What if you tweak it slightly and you say, I'm going to believe in the baseline of the person.
Okay.
So when you love someone, that baseline is going to be at a high place.
Yeah.
So you're going to believe that they're well-intentioned, that they have good motives.
Yeah.
That they're acting with shared regard for each of you and with a shared vision for your future together. And maybe the behavior doesn't make sense to you at the moment.
Yes.
But we're going to give them credit for that baseline. And that baseline is a very high point because of everything they've done in the past for us. And for other people, the baseline is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's dangerous to give them too much credit.
Right.
Even if you're curious, like in the workplace, that could be a dangerous thing. But in a personal relationship, I think it's wonderful.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. It could be dangerous, but even within my own mind, it can be helpful to search for, okay, if they weren't out to get me, or if they weren't trying to do something negative to me, right? Like, what else could their motivations be? What else could be going on?
Do they have to have ulterior motives? What are 3 reasons that work for me or for us or for them that aren't to my detriment? That could be the reasons.
Yeah. I sometimes think about this one. I'm actually going through and repairing an experience I had with someone where we were on very different pages. And so we're, getting together and talking about it. And it's fascinating to me because a lot of people, I think, write people off and say, forget it. But I'm like, how are we going to actually heal this world if we can't even have conversations with people who are similar to us? Right. Then you take the wide gaps that many people are experiencing these days. And how do we bridge those and heal those? Right. I think we have to be able to get curious.
Yes, get curious, be willing to be uncomfortable and have different difficult conversations, being willing to lean into the discomfort because that's where so much of the growth takes place.
Yeah.
And getting curious is, I think, one of the best traits that someone can have because it leads to growth, it leads to personal development in all kinds of ways, and it leads to tremendously increased communication.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that anybody should go have a conversation where they don't feel safe. We've got to check in with our own body and our own nervous system and see what we can handle and when we can handle it. But when we're in these loving relationships with our partners, we can choose more loving responses versus these dysregulated reactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I practice with my wife is how to pause the world.
Yes.
When her nervous system asks for a different tempo.
Can you say
And so
more?
we're practicing grace as a rhythm rather than grace as a reward.
Oh, grace as a rhythm. I like that. It's not like you're giving someone grace after the fact. It sounds like you're giving them grace in the midst.
Right. In the midst or regularly, regardless of circumstance, giving someone grace so that you're not always holding to them to some high expectation that no one can meet.
Yeah.
Because no one can be 100% at anything.
No, for sure. And I love that. There's so much kindness and so much acceptance and love and appreciation and like all the good stuff I'm hearing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah. Is there anything else that feels important to you that you want to communicate about your process or your practices?
I would say the last thing that I would encourage people to practice in their relationships that my wife and I practice is something we call the move us test. We run everything through this. So does this move bring us closer together or further apart? So does this decision, does this choice, does this behavior bring us closer together or further apart? How does it move us? So it's the move us test. And that question alone has saved us more times than I can count, especially in situations of extreme turmoil.
Yeah.
Because it can be easy to default to act in a self-interested way. And that never happens when you say, does this move us closer together or further apart?
Well, right. Inherent in there is the us, is the we, right? It's like, it can't move us closer if it's only good for one of us. There has to be a shared sense of the relationship or the between us.
Yes. I like to say we want our relationship to be mutually beneficial and long-term sustainable. That's the key.
I like that. Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you. This has been delightful and so powerful. And there's a way that I feel the lightness of your heart and the depth of your wisdom at the same time, right? It's not coming through this like holier than thou, or this is how we have to do it. I feel so much humility as you're bringing such wisdom.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Where can people find your book and more of you?
So people can find my book, Prioritize Us, on Amazon. You can get it in paperback or hardcover. It's also available as an ebook. If you go to nickbrancato.com, BRANCATO, nickbrancato.com, you can actually get the ebook absolutely free. You can just download it on my website. I just want to help as many people as possible. So if you're interested in taking the test or learning more, grab the ebook. And if this conversation resonated with you and you want to get deeper support applying any of these principles, I have a couple spots open for coaching where I work with couples or individuals on their core priorities and confronting misalignment and building stronger relationships. So if that sounds like something that would benefit you, feel free to DM me on Instagram at personal dev coach, dev like development, personal dev coach. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I'd love to hear from you. I'm very passionate about this subject, so I'm happy to talk about it.
Awesome. I feel your passion. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Practicing Love. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and gained insight into yourself and your current and past relationships and inspiration for what's possible. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review to help people find us. If you'd like more support in your love life, be sure to get your free copy of my best-selling book, Honest Sex, at shanajamescoaching.com/free. That's shanajamescoaching.com/free. And we'll see you next time.